It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Showtime, everybody. What's happening? It's a Wednesday. See, no, it's a Tuesday. I got my days all mixed up. Can you believe that? It's Wednesday. How are you doing? It is time for the Geno Jones Show. See, when you take a week off, even though you need a week, the days become nights and the nights become days. It's a Working Divas Wednesday. That's how I know it's a Wednesday. Call it a Working Divas Wednesday right here on the Geno Jones Show. So please, like, share, and subscribe. Let me say this again. Like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel right here on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, and tag all these episodes. Tag them and share them on all your social media platforms. You're more than welcome to share this episode and any episode on Facebook. You can copy the link and tag it on Twitter, Instagram. You can screen grab something that you like or that you don't like. That's all good with me. And you put it on TikTok or some other platforms, maybe the Triller platform out there. So listen, I call Wednesdays the Working Divas Wednesdays. I like to salute all and shout out. See, that's two words coming out at one time. I like to salute and shout out all my working divas. And today I got a very special working diva who is gonna make history. I'm just speaking it into existence. This is just me saying what I'm saying. I'm sure she's a much more modest and humble person, but she is running to be governor of the state of South Carolina. So let's get right into the show. Oh, by the way, if you would like to be a sponsor of the Geno Jones Show, I'd be honored. I'd love to have you as a sponsor. If you like to advertise, I'd love to have you advertise. To all my brothers and sisters, all my white allies out there, all my brothers and sisters, all my anti-racist, blue-eyed soul brothers that want to support, you know, the mission and the cause of black lives and supporting black businesses and black entrepreneurs in this era of racial reckoning with the billions and billions, maybe trillions of corporate dollars. Some people are calling it George Floyd guilt money that corporations are donating to colleges and universities and entrepreneurs and black businesses. Holla at your boy. And if you're looking for the ultimate pitch man, and I say this with all modesty and humility, I'm not the king. No, I'm not the king. As I adjust my earpiece and make sure that I got it in here right so I can hear my guests. I'm not the king. I'm the king. I'm the king of pitch men. Just holla at your boy. Let's get right into the show. I want to give a big shout out on this Working Divas Wednesday to Karika. I believe I'm pronouncing it right, my sister. If I'm wrong, I apologize and blame it on my head and not my heart. Shout out to Karika White. So she made history as the first black woman to run Domino Sugar Refinery. Now, I don't know about you, but growing up on the south side of Chicago, just about every black person I knew in the neighborhood, when they went to the store, their mom would say, boy, Jeannie, make sure you go get a bag of Domino sugar. Couldn't bring like the generic sugar. She's like, no. I know my grandmother was like, Jeannie, go get some Domino. She was clear. There were two things there's a lot of things she was clear about. But when it came to going to the grocery store, there were two things she was clear about. She said, Jeannie, get some Tide. Had to get Tide. Couldn't get all the other, had to be Tide. We out of Tide, go pick up some Tide and go get some Domino sugar. So shout out to Karika White, making history, because I know a lot of black folks, not everybody, but I know a lot of folks in the community. We grew up on some Domino sugar in the Kool-Aid. You couldn't make Kool-Aid without some Domino sugar. Now you probably poured a whole half-pound bag of Domino sugar in that one pitcher of Kool-Aid. Probably get, as they say, the sugar back in the day, the sugar diabetes with all the sugar that you poured into that pitcher. If you were lucky, you know, you had that pitcher they had back in the day, the pitcher with the smile on it, like they had in the Kool-Aid commercial. Okay, I'm reminiscing, going back in the day. Shout out to Miss Karika White, making history over there at Domino Sugar. And I want to shout out to my guest, who's about to come on camera right now. She is a South Carolina state senator from the 22nd District, running to be governor of the state of South Carolina right here where I am at, who would make history as the first black person ever elected governor in this state of South Carolina, and the first black woman governor ever elected in these United States of America. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, let me bring on camera, yes, there she is, the aforementioned senator, state senator of the 22nd District, who I am speaking into existence. So, Senator McLeod, please indulge me. I know, like I said, you are a brilliant but modest and humble person, but I am speaking into existence. The next senator for the state of South Carolina. I said it, I meant it. Google me, email me, whatever, that's on you. But I believe in speaking things into existence, good, especially State Senator Mia McLeod. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are, so I've been looking forward to having this conversation. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, listen, I don't know about anybody else. Actually, I do know. I'm just trying to be nice and modest about it. But I know there's a lot of people, not just here in the state of South Carolina, but all over this country that are excited about your candidacy. So for those who may not know, let's start off at the beginning. Senator McLeod, tell us your story and your journey to becoming a state senator on your way to the governor's mansion.
Sure. Well, I am a South Carolinian, born and raised right here in Bennettsville, South Carolina, which is a rural part of our state that has been neglected and forgotten in so many ways. That is my hometown. My mom was a public school teacher and librarian, and my dad was a licensed funeral director and embalmer. My family's funeral home is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, African-American funeral home in the state.
Wow.
That is still in business today, 107 years later.
Wow.
Growing up in Bennettsville, I was in and out of the hospital as a child, and my parents didn't know why. And it wasn't until I came to USC that I was diagnosed with sickle cell anemia.
Wow.
Fortunately, a milder form of it. And fortunately for me and for us at that time when I grew up, we didn't have a skating rink. We didn't have a movie theater in Bennettsville, but we did have a hospital. And now we don't have a hospital.
Wow.
So, Marlborough County, which is where Bennettsville is it's a part of our state that has been dubbed by some as the corridor of shame. I like to call it the corridor of hope. But people look at counties like Marlborough with just some people don't understand, and I don't understand how we can have counties, our rural counties and communities like that, who don't have, we don't have hospitals. We don't have a hospital. We don't have, we're still operating below our minimally adequate educational standard when it comes to public education. Just most recently during the pandemic, of course, not having a hospital was critical. We lost a lot more lives in rural counties like mine because of it. But we also didn't have broadband. We don't have broadband in many parts of Marlborough County and other rural counties across South Carolina. So, it wasn't until, and I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. After coming to the big city of Columbia, I came to USC in the late 80s to college without dating myself. Came to USC in the late 80s, and I actually was a page for then Representative David Beasley, who later became governor of our state. And as a page, I really, people ask me all the time, well, how did you get started in politics? Is this something that you always wanted to do? Was it on your to-do list, your bucket list? Absolutely not. Never thought about running for office, never intended to run for office. And I think, as I think back on it, it's probably because when I got the job as a page, it was really my introduction to the way government worked. I didn't even know what a page was, but I believe that my steps are ordered, and that's where I worked during the whole time I was in college, and then graduated college and went to work for the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, and didn't realize that it was a pro-business, Republican-leaning organization until until years later, because my job at the state chamber was really to help coordinate our events and programs. So I didn't understand the politics at play behind all of that, but it did pique my curiosity as it related to employment discrimination cases and labor laws and all of those things. So I applied to law school at the University of South Carolina and got accepted. And I didn't want to practice law, but I thought that a law degree would be the most versatile degree, and would give me the biggest, the most practical experience that I could have, whether I wanted to go into HR and deal with employment discrimination issues, which is what I had an interest in, or state government in some capacity. And I did both. So, I'm really blessed in that regard. After law school, my first job was working for a Republican Attorney General, who was Charlie Condon at that time, right out of law school. And my team and I wrote the protocols and curricula for law enforcement, solicitors, judges, and victim advocates when it comes to domestic violence cases. Actually, we did that. We launched that our state's first statewide violence against women program. And it was under a grant that was funded by a law that had been sponsored by then Senator Joe Biden. So, I'm really fortunate in that respect, in retrospect, because it shows that, Republicans and Democrats can work together. We're good, and for the betterment of South Carolina. So I'm excited about that. That program is still in place today, and it's operating at a much lesser level because new administrations have come in, but they've kept that program going, and I'm super proud of that. And I believe those protocols and curricula are still in place. And I then went to work for a Democratic governor, Jim Hodges, and I was director of the State Office of Victim Assistance, which managed, I managed the state's crime victims compensation program. And we received national accolades from our governing board for fiscal responsibility and for ease of access, because I opened satellite offices in rural communities like my hometown community, so that people wouldn't have to come to Columbia to access the programs and services within that office. Now, when I left state government, though, and started my own firm in 2003, I started a public affairs firm, and I was newly divorced and had I have two boys, and they were much younger at that time. So that was when I first discovered how expensive it is to have health insurance when you already have a pre-existing condition. Yeah. I'd already been diagnosed with sickle cell, and the cost of my health insurance premium every month was higher than my mortgage.
My God. Jeez.
And that's when I knew that something
Something had to
wasn't
change.
working right. You're right, in government. You know, as a kid in Marlboro County, to see my mom have to um, glue the backs of our books back together, and to try and preserve the books that she had in the school library, so that we would have books to read, and the kids in the community would have books to check out when they were in school. It didn't it didn't resonate with me then like it does now. Of course, that those two were just ways that rural impoverished communities like ours had been forgotten and neglected for years. So now we're looking at least we're coming up on 2 decades of Republican leadership, if you can call it that. And I'll give you the big 3 reasons that I'm running. First,
very good, because you literally read my mind. My next question was, I know you've been out on the campaign, so let's just say we're here in the Charleston area or up in Columbia, and you're walking into a barber shop or a hair salon, or on a Sunday you're going to a church or a place of worship, or maybe a picnic, and there's always going to be a smart aleck that's going to say, well, so why do you want to be governor? So what?
Right.
Obviously, you've got an answer. So
I do have an answer. I've got a few answers, actually.
Great.
And I'll give you the big 3. It's certainly more than 3 reasons, but I'll share with you and your viewers the big 3. The first is, if this pandemic didn't teach us or show us anything else, it showed that we have people in positions of power and leadership in this state who don't have the courage to lead. I'm running for governor because I have the courage to lead, and the guts to govern, and the experience to hit the ground running on day one. None of my opponents in this primary or in the general have that experience or those attributes. The second reason is because, I do believe, a lot of people are cynical now, and things will never change, and this is the way they've been for a while, this is the way they'll always be. I don't believe that. I believe in a South Carolina where everybody can thrive, where people can actually earn wages that they can live on. And I don't know what that magic number is yet, but we got to get there. That's for sure. And so I'm doing some research now to see what other states are doing and how they tackle that issue.
I'm sorry, let me just jump in. In terms of a minimum wage you're referring to?
In terms of a minimum wage, okay. I am certainly in favor of increasing the minimum wage, but I know we have to go beyond that. And so part of my service in the House and Senate, I kind of skipped over that part. I hadn't talked about that yet, but part of my service as an elected official in the House and Senate has been to begin to address some of these systemic reforms that I know we need. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that when we converse about other reasons and other issues around why I'm running.
Well, no, listen, we're just having a conversation, so feel free to segue and go in any direction. Of course, I was going to ask you about some of the main issues or policies that's going to be a priority for your administration, but hey, listen.
Okay, I'll go into that right now.
Yeah, dude, hey, listen, I'm an entertainer. I'm not trying to be Don Lemon, but Don Lemon couldn't beat me. So it's just Geno having a conversation with his newfound dear friend, Senator McLeod. So excited about your campaign. So we're just having a conversation like we in a hair salon or barber shop at somebody's house party. So just segue and check you've got the floor.
Okay.
So state your case.
Thank you, Geno. I love that. So. Yeah, we talked a little bit about, just the ability of South Carolinians need and deserve the ability to earn wages that they can live on. For this pandemic to have displaced, disenfranchised, and really put so many people out of employment. Yes. We've got to recognize that people we can't just force them back into $7.25 an hour jobs. That is insane. And I know that our current governor does not have any concern or compassion for people. But I'll tell you a few things about what I've learned during the pandemic. One is that the very people that that he is pushing back into these minimum wage jobs for slave wages are the same ones that they refuse to protect. Even during the height of the pandemic, I offered an amendment on the floor of the South Carolina Senate to require it was on a bill that the Republicans had sponsored, and it was to give employers immunity from liability for any COVID-19 exposures. So it will allow the governor to push essential employees who have been deemed essential, of course, and that means people who look like us,
yes,
who are making minimum wage, and just forced back into those unsafe workspaces. Now they're on this whole deal where they don't want anybody to require vaccinations or mask wearing. So any way that they can kill us, it just seems like, everything is fair game. And so I introduced an amendment on the floor of the Senate, and it was on their safe harbor bill that would give employers immunity from liability. It would have required employers to make sure that their workplaces were safe for employees to come back, to do the additional safety protocols, to provide the additional protective equipment that they needed to keep themselves safe and their family members safe. And the majority leader of the South Carolina Senate, who is, of course, a Republican, since they have the majority, they are in control of the House and the Senate and the governor's office, said on the floor publicly, well, Senator, we appreciate the fact that you're a fierce advocate for South Carolina employees, but we just think your amendment goes too far. And I'm thinking, wow, these are people who claim to be pro-life talking about a safety amendment for working people going too far, which would save lives. They're forcing back into these unsafe spaces. So, that was one thing that I tried to do, albeit unsuccessfully, simply because they aren't concerned with the people or their lives. They're concerned with their politics and what they can say they've done for the business community. So that's just one of the things that I thought. Of course, as governor, and I am in it to win it. So I will outwork any candidate in this race, and I will definitely connect with voters across the state, many of whom have been forgotten and overlooked and just ignored for decades under these Republican administrations. But one of the things that I can do and will do right out of the gate as governor is to expand Medicaid. I mean, that alone, that one thing would actually help rural hospitals reopen. It would bring healthcare professionals back to every nook and cranny of our state. It would boost our economy with jobs and just, money and make sure that everybody has the ability to access quality, affordable healthcare. They won't have to, travel for Lord knows how many miles and wait in crowded emergency rooms or at urgent cares and, or die trying. That will open this state up in ways that it hasn't been opened before, especially not in the last 2 decades by Nikki Haley or Henry McMaster. And it just makes sense. I mean, there's a reason that their Republican gubernatorial colleagues in other states have expanded Medicaid, many of them. Not because they just, believe in a healthier state, whatever states I can't remember all the states, but there are a number of states that have, Republican governors that have expanded Medicaid. Why? Because it's it's just economically sound. It makes good sense. It's a win-win because you'll have a healthier workforce, you'll have healthier citizens, you'll have less of the negative impact on crowded emergency rooms and people having to go to the emergency rooms as their primary, physicians.
Yes.
So, it just makes sense. And it would help hundreds of thousands of people in our state become healthier and live longer because they will catch some of these diseases and chronic conditions before they get too far.
Yes.
So that's something that I can do and I will do right out of the gate. When it comes to our educational system, there's no reason why we should not invest in public education. I mean, it is the gateway to everything that matters that we say we care about, whether it's jobs and economic development opportunities, whether it's having a skilled workforce who has the ability to educate and get people who are from here into those high-paying positions that they always talk about. Oh, we got so many. They love to tout and have press conferences around the jobs and all of the economic development and the industries that they're bringing in. But what they're not saying is, yeah, but we got to go to Ohio or New York or all these other states to bring people in to fill those positions because of our minimally adequate public education standards. So those are just a few things right out of the gate. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk this week about legalizing marijuana. I am all for it, and I've actually been the one who's doing the work with regard to that. I believe that we have to reform our criminal justice system, but also there are so many other systemic reforms that we need. But legalizing marijuana is a part of my Transparency and Justice Act. And that was birthed out of frustration and just devastation and anger in response to George Floyd's murder.
Yeah.
I was all about the protests, but I wrote something to my constituents and community members, and the title of it was After the Protests, because that, in my opinion, is what was sorely missing. It was missing after, my friend and colleague, Senator Clemente Pinckney, was gunned down at Mother Emanuel. We didn't have a plan for after that. We wanted to bring the Confederate flag down. I was a part of the effort to do that. And I had a vote to help bring that down when I was in the South Carolina House, and I'm super proud of that. But beyond that, we didn't have a plan. And that's why we still don't have a hate crime law. Although I have supported Representative Wendell Gilliard's hate crime bill since he introduced it. And I believe he introduced it right after the Mother Emanuel shooting, because of the Mother Emanuel shooting. And we had a real opportunity to pass his bill. It had gotten some traction, and we had a real opportunity to pass it this year.
This year, right.
My years are starting to run together. This year. And we did not. And the reason that we didn't is because the Republican majority wasn't focused on that. They prioritized the fetal heartbeat anti-abortion bill and firing squads for the death penalty and open carry, which means open season on Black and brown people. So, yeah.
Yes. No, preach. You preach, man, don't get me started. That's why Hey, you're my guest today because you probably seen my rants, but go, 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 go.
Yeah, I'm speaking your language.
Oh man,
Exactly. I mean,
save me from myself on my own show because that's what it is. But now go ahead, Senator.
yeah, and so what my transparency, I am still very much supportive of Representative Gilliard's bill and all of the reasons that he has introduced it and been fighting so hard to get it passed. But I've also introduced a more comprehensive bill called the Transparency and Justice Act. I pre-filed it last year, and the reason is because it is the most comprehensive criminal justice reform bill that is on the books in South Carolina. And I'm extremely proud of that. And I'll tell you a few of the things that it does. One is it makes hate a crime in South Carolina. So it would establish and make hate a crime legally in South Carolina. It would also, though, repeal our expansive citizens arrest law. And I know your viewers have, and you have seen the video of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia.
Yes.
Being hunted down rather, like a wild animal for jogging in his own neighborhood, simply because some white citizen vigilantes didn't think that he belonged in his own neighborhood. And so they took it upon themselves to hunt him down and to shoot him like he was nothing. And so that made me look at South Carolina citizen arrest law. And I discovered that our citizens arrest law is even more expansive than Georgia's. And so we are an incident like that waiting to happen, in my opinion. And so my bill repeals that law because I think I learned that the original intent of that law was to allow citizens whose homes are broken into at night, and the law specifically states at night. Now, if you recall, Ahmaud Arbery was killed during the day. And that's why I said ours is more expansive than Georgia's, but the intent for Georgia's law, I would assume, and for ours, was to give citizens, I guess, some additional support. We already have stand your ground, so to me that would be enough. But it would allow citizens to arrest people or shoot to kill if they're standing their ground. If somebody breaks into your house at night under the cover of darkness, I get it. And I agree. Like, yeah, they get what they should get what they came for and not leave the way they came. Because, I'm a concealed weapon permit owner, not owner. I have a concealed weapon permit too. And I would be the first to say that, you got to protect yourself and your family and your property. And if somebody comes in, breaks into your home, it's obvious that they're coming to do you harm. Ahmaud Arbery wasn't breaking into anybody's home. He was jogging in broad daylight at 1 something, I think, on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that hit home for me in a very personal way, even more than George Floyd's murder did, because I have 2 young adult sons that I, love more than life. And both are recent college graduates. Both played high school and college football on scholarships. And my youngest son is still in Colorado. He just graduated from Colorado State University, and it has another year of eligibility to play football. So he's going to play another season. But when he comes home, during the time he's not playing, he often, works out and jogs in our neighborhood. And so when that happened, it just, it hit me very differently, because that could easily be my baby.
Absolutely.
And any of ours. And
could have been you or me.
Could have been
any
me.
Us, yeah.
Absolutely. And so it would repeal that citizens arrest law. It would also ban police chokeholds and no-knock warrants. It would decriminalize marijuana. It would require the police to take de-escalation training and to de-escalate, those incidents which they repeatedly failed to do. It would also, for people who are seeking to become law enforcement officers, it would require additional screenings so that they vet these officers much more carefully to make sure that they aren't affiliated with any hate groups or white supremacy organizations. It would do the same for current law enforcement officers who are seeking recertification. And one of the bigger things that it would do that I believe is equally important is it would get rid of qualified immunity in the state.
Yes.
And every law enforcement officer, it would get rid of qualified immunity in unjustified law enforcement killings. So, what just happened in Charleston with Jamal Sutherland, Walter Scott, what happened to George Floyd, all of those would be cases where, those officers would have to be held accountable because they could not hide behind the law and escape accountability and responsibility. So that's a bill that I hope your viewers and all South Carolinians can get behind, because it just makes, we talk a lot about the bad apples in law enforcement. And, when you are part of the targeted audience, as we are,
yes.
When you hear that, it's become offensive to me, at least, and folks who look like me, because there are bad apples in every discipline, but the difference is we refuse to deal with the bad apples and hold them accountable. So it makes the whole tree seem like it's bearing rotten fruit, and we got to change that.
Thanks.
And I think the systems have to change in order for us to change that.
Let me just piggyback on that last point about qualified immunity, because my regular viewers, they know, and you haven't, go back and binge watch. I've been on this, as they call it, this soapbox for a while, because you talked about George Floyd. We talk about right here, I'm in North Charleston, South Carolina. Walter Scott was murdered less than 2 miles from where I am standing right now. And I have said for years, because when I look at what happened with George Floyd, and when I look at how Walter Scott was shot in the back, running away, right. I say there are too many instances where those officers cannot see my humanity. Or people, you talked about what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, and those were people who just deputized them damn selves. So. Right. If you cannot, especially if you are given the power of the state, you represent the government, and we, the taxpayers, we give you this incredible power to where you really have the legal jurisdiction to make life and death decisions.
Right.
With that responsibility, with that power, it has to come an incredible amount of responsibility and judiciousness. So if examples like that, there's so many, and we don't have time to go into all of them, because we all know the names and the stories, not just black men, black women, other people of color. Think of Sandra Bland, who's a Chicago native, where I grew up. She died in a jail in Texas.
Yeah.
Too many times, those
Absolutely.
officers that have some type of hate or malice or whatever it is, if you can't see my humanity, the one way I can get your attention is if I go digging in your pockets.
Right.
So maybe you can't, maybe because of whatever hate or bias or bigotry or whatever, or you having a bad day or whatever it is, you can't see my humanity as a black man or you as a black woman. But if you can't see my humanity, I want to make sure that there's some mechanism in place to where, I'll get your attention because I can go dig into your pockets. If doctors can be held liable, attorneys can be held liable, I don't understand why people in law enforcement, nobody, I believe we are in America to where How many times have I heard, no one is above the law? From the President of the United States on down, no one man or woman is above the law. So let's not talk about it. Let's live it. And you've been so generous with your time. So I can't be selfish, and I know you got to go. But before I let you get out of here, I want you could tie your closing remark around this. Call me crazy, Senator McLeod, but the kids say on the street, man, she's got the receipts, the resume, the experience working with Democrats, Republicans here in the state of South Carolina. Listen, we got to just keep it real. We are in the South, and you've shown an ability. People talk about working across the aisle, in a very conservative state. You've done it. You've got those receipts. You got the receipts stamped. I personally, maybe I'm selfish because I grew up in a house full of black women, but I think that your diversity is an asset and would be an asset, not just because of just the diversity alone, but because of the unique skill set and the navigational skills of life that it takes to be a black woman that's successful in your position. So call me crazy. So now, I'm sure you've heard the naysayers say, well, you running for governor in South Carolina, it's a conservative state, a woman and a black woman, and it's going to be hard. And, personally, you and I had a conversation, and I said, when people say, why you? I would just say, why not me? But I'm not speaking for you because you definitely don't need me to speak for you at all. But call me crazy. I think everything that you mentioned and just your entire skill set as a package should be an asset. So if there's any closing remarks, or just for those naysayers, because I know you get them, we all get them. And then, because not only as a woman of color, you had to deal with racism and whites, the ideology of white supremacy and the institutional racism that still exists. Yes, it does. I said it. At me if you want to. Absolutely. You've had to deal with the misogyny and sexism that comes along with racism and hate and bigotry, and you've had to deal with it from not just the dominant culture, but unfortunately sometimes from men who may look like you, unfortunately. So you've had to navigate all that. So just in closing, I believe it's an asset, but to those naysayers, you say what?
Well, just a few minutes, if you'll indulge me.
Yes.
One
absolutely.
is
you're my guest. This is my home. You're my guest.
Thank you. This is a race that we can and will win, and there are numerous reasons, but I will just leave your viewers with a few of them. One is this state. In this state, 55% of South Carolina's registered voters are women. Last year, we had at least 418,000 registered non-white voters who did not vote, which means I'm not sure about the reasons that there was a disconnect. I'm sure the pandemic had a lot to do with it. And the fact that limited the ground game of the Democrats. But here's where I think we are most likely to win.
And
here's
wait,
why.
I apologize. The only reason I'm jumping in because I want my viewers. I want that number. I want it to sink in your head. I want it to be like you were standing in quicksand. I want that number. Because the math is the math.
The math is the math.
Please, how many, give us that number again about how many registered voters did not vote. Give us that statistic.
Not just registered voters. Now, there were 1 million registered voters who didn't vote last year, right? But there were 418,000 registered non-white voters who didn't vote last year.
Okay.
That's almost 500,000
exactly
non-white voters who didn't vote Last.
That was last year. We're
That
not
was
even talking
last.
about in 2022. All the people,
No.
like my daughter who just turned, well, last year she turned 18. So she was a
Right.
voter. You know, a lot of
Right.
her friends and went to high school. They are
Right.
all emerging as new voters.
Exactly. Another reason is the demographics of South Carolina are changing. And that has, there are, especially in areas like Charleston
Yes.
and Greenville,
Hmm.
the demographics are changing. And, you know, that is giving the SCGOP a lot of heartburn because they don't know how to manage that. And so what do they go to but, voter suppression? But we won't talk about that right now.
Hmm.
But another reason that I believe we can and will win is because insanity, the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing year after year, election after election, and getting the same results. We get our butts kicked every single time. Hey, look, I'm a different candidate, not just on paper, in the flesh. I'm a totally different candidate with a different journey, a different perspective, different relationships, different experiences. And I believe that all of that will yield a different result in November. And so I just want to leave just those little tidbits of encouragement and just to enlighten and make your viewers aware that, hey, this isn't, we can't just look at what has happened in the past. We've got to recognize that, we have a real opportunity if we seize it to do something different this time, totally different. I didn't understand, I didn't even realize until I got ready to announce, and the reporter who had the exclusive did some research and discovered that I am the first Black woman to ever announce a run for governor in the state.
Wow.
I didn't realize that because I'm so accustomed to not seeing somebody who looks like me run that I guess, it never occurred to me that nobody had ever even announced to run. I knew I'd never heard of a Black woman, running, but I thought maybe it had happened, before me, because there was a Black female senator who served in the South Carolina Senate before I did. But, we are still, there's so much opportunity here. We just have to seize it. We got to think differently and act differently. And I'm a believer that when we are armed with accurate information, we're empowered to do better because we know better. So I need and appreciate everybody's support. If you want to join this movement, please support me with your donations, and we need volunteers. We need all of it. Just go to miaforsc.com. That's miaforsc.com and join us.
Do you have some
And
other?
thank you so
Do
much
you have
for
any
having
other? I'm sorry. Do you have any other social media platforms where people can get some
Yes,
Twitter,
I am
Instagram,
on.
Facebook?
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't know if I remember all the handles though.
We're searching. They could
At
just
me
do a
for
search.
SC, I think it's all of them. I think it's
Okay.
at me for SC on all of them. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are I think those are the three that we are using primarily. So yeah, follow me on any of those platforms and just take a look at what I'm doing. I'm not asking for your support because I'm Black. I'm not asking for your support because I'm a woman. I'm asking for your support because I am the most experienced and qualified candidate in this race. And I am different. Like I said, a different perspective, different journey, different experience. But I believe that will yield a different result, not just in November, but I do have a primary in June of 2022 as well. And I need and appreciate your support in both of those races. Thank you again, Geno. It's been a pleasure being with you. I hope you'll invite me back.
Listen, you have a permanent home right here on the Geno Jones Show. And let me just say this, and I'm just going to keep it 100 because people understand. They know that. I'm very authentic with this show. It's about being authenticity. I'm not trying to be anybody but the best Geno Jones. But let me just, in closing, let me just say this. All right. I believe in this woman here. And it's not because she's a black woman, but I will tell you this. Just when I had a chance to sit down and have a conversation with her as a person, not only does she has the kids saying in the street does she have the receipts, she's got the resume, she's got the experience, she's got the intelligence, but she has the compassion, the humanity, and the empathy to see the humanity in each and every one of us, irregardless of what we look like, irregardless of what our zip code was or is, irregardless if we grew up in a little small rural town where they got one stoplight and no internet, or if you grew up in a big city here in South Carolina like Columbia, here in Charleston, South Carolina, or up in Greenville. She's got the compassion, the humanity and the empathy to understand that the position and the power that she has, and the position and the power and the influence that she will have, and I'm speaking it into existence, being governor of the state of South Carolina. That position is not about herself. It's about us, the people. You know, politicians. I always say Senator McLeod. You know, something that I look at. You know, when I talk to a lot of people who are in public or politicians. Because one thing I have learned from people like yourself, especially people like Representative Wendell Gilliard, dear friend, State Senator Marlon Kimpson, and so many other J.A. Moore here, and Dion Tedder, who I live in this district, and there's some more that I know I'm not mentioning, but everybody, they know who they are, is that there's a difference between a politician and a public servant.
Absolutely.
The job, these positions.
Now, I'm quick to draw attention to that and to gently correct people who call me a politician, because I won't say that I take it offensively, but I am a public servant. I'm not a politician.
And
so
it's just, I'm gonna be honest. I see that, and I've learned that. Wendell and I talked about it, and I told him, I said, I admire that man, and I get the difference. I understand now. Because like I said, I'm an entertainer, and a media personality. But I've learned, and growing up in Chicago, when Harold Washington, God rest his soul, became mayor of Chicago, his second term, that was the first time I got a chance to vote. And he was brilliant with that. I think about President Obama, is that it's not about me. It's not about, you get it, it's not about you. It's not about what the office can do for you. It's about how you can use the power of that office to improve everybody's life, to show the government can actually work for the people, and not let that just be like a quote on a mantle in somebody's office, but let that be something practical. Practical application in people's lives. And I know you believe in it. And I'm sorry, because I might be overstepping. You do not need me to speak for you, but I'm just, what's on the heart comes from the heart. So that's just my take, damn it. So y'all don't have to believe me. Like I said, it's my show, so at me. But
no, I appreciate that. You're right on point.
My grandmother taught me so many things. She'd say, Jeannie, the truth needs no defense. Needs no defense. You don't have to argue with people, argue, screaming. She said, you can tell the truth, just place it right there and just move on. And let people, they can wrestle with it. They are entitled to their own opinions, but you are not. In spite of what some media platforms tell you, you are not entitled to your own facts. Facts are facts. 2 + 2 is always 4. It's never gonna be 5. And the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, at least on planet Earth. I don't care. You can be turned around, whatever. From the North Pole to the South Pole, from South Carolina to China or Guam, whatever. The sun's gonna rise in the east and it's gonna set in the west. I have taken up too much time. Once again, it's Mia, give us that website again where people can go support the campaign and get some more information about your platform.
MiaForSC.com, MIAFORSC.
Senator Mia McLeod, our next governor of the state of South Carolina. I said it, I meant it, and I ain't taking it back. I'm speaking it into existence. Thank you so much for your time. You've been so generous. Yes, I'm looking forward to having you come back. Anytime that you want to come back on the show, if there's anything that you want to, if there's any issues, if is any legislation that you're working on, if there's any platform agendas, if there are any there's a lot going on, especially in Washington, D.C., and I know we didn't have time, but there's a lot that I'd love to get into with voting rights and teaching the truth. Because I didn't even use that phrase because people have now tried to weaponize a college course that's really only taught in law school. And you being an attorney, you went to law school, and people have taken like a law school class, and somehow tried to weaponize it and demonize it. But that's a whole different conversation. We will have many opportunities to have those conversations. I'm gonna let you get back to your family. God bless you. May God continue to bless and have favor on you, your family, and your campaign, and the state of South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Mia McLeod, thank you.
Thank you so much, Geno.
All right. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen. Listen. You're talking about a star, a rising star. You just saw it right here live on the Geno Jones Show. South Carolina State Senator Mia McLeod, next governor of the state of South Carolina. And you know what they say about governors? You know, governors, that can put you on the fast track to the White House. As being the president of the United States one day. You just never know. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Like, share, and subscribe. Once again, like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel right here on YouTube. If you would like to be a sponsor of the Geno Jones Show, I'd be honored to have you as a sponsor. If you like to advertise, I'd love to have you advertise. All right? And if you are looking for the ultimate pitch man to help promote and build your brand, your business, your products, your goods or services, simply put, I am the king, not the king. I'm the king of pitchmen. Holla at your boy. Leave me a message right here on my YouTube channel. Or you can just send me an email, Geno Jones Show. I got new headphones. I just got these. I love them. But as you see, I have to keep playing with them. You know, it's like a new pair of shoes. You know, when you get a new pair of shoes, you know, you gotta break them in. So I am still breaking in these headphones. But the good thing is, like, I'm at the end of the show, so you don't have to see me keep tugging at my ear. All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. Right? Thank you. Each and every one of you. God bless each and every one of you. Reach out to me. Check me out tomorrow. Wow, this has been a short week. I forgot about that. I had Monday off for my radio show. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday edition of the Geno Jones Show. Please go back and binge watch all my back episodes. Do that for me. A conversation with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They talked about the brand new album they released, Jam and Lewis Volume 1, that came out last Friday. My conversation with Miss Letticy. She's playing Mahalia Jackson in an upcoming biopic, a movie, and just a lot of great. Senator Cory Booker. And go back, if you missed it, if you came in the middle, go back and binge watch the entire episode of South Carolina State Senator Mia McLeod, running for governor, running to be elected the first black person as the governor of South Carolina, and the first black woman ever elected to a governorship here in the United States of America. I love each and every one of you. Mother, you know I love you more than life itself. I'm out. Until tomorrow, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Once again, thank you so much for watching. And as always, please be blessed.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.